Folks, we back again another Tuesday, another exciting time. Men's mental health. You heard it. It's still June, men's mental health. Folks, I brought the doctor in this time now. We're going to have some real conversation tonight. Some real live, unedited, true talk on where these men sit at, where we sit at, what we're doing, how we can get better, which is the key. We don't have to stay in that box. We all month we talked about how we keep growing and growing as men, but some of us, we get stuck in a situation where we don't want to get out the box because we're comfortable. We're so used to it. It's normal for us. You can't tell me nothing. I've been here before, but now we're going to get the doctor's advice on this whole topic of how we start to get better as men and what we're doing for it. And Doc, if you can just introduce yourself very quick before we start jumping into these questions and give us a little background.
Yes, my name is Dr. Siegfried Howell. I'm a relationship engineer and architect. And basically what I do is I help people design the relationships that they want, whether it's a relationship with yourself, whether it's a relationship on the job, or whether it's an intimate relationship or a relationship in the community. Relationships are very integral to human beings as a whole. And your ability to cultivate and maintain healthy relationships will take you a very, very, very long way in acquiring the happiness and the purpose that you want for your life.
Yeah, and folks, we're gonna get down to relationships, and we know that we all struggle at some point in a relationship, whether it's a job relationship, personal relationship, professional, business relationship. We all struggle, and the biggest thing we say that, hey, I've been doing it like this for so many years. And Doc, the question we've been focusing on is, how do we get in this position to where we get so comfortable after 10, 20 years? You taught in school and you used to teach in a certain way, and your boss come to you and say to you, hey, this is the new age stuff. And you be like, nah, I've been here 22 years. This is working. I mean, how do you get out of that type of situation?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is that people are creatures of habits. Mm-hmm. And so you get used to doing things a certain way, and you get into what we call the proverbial rhythm of things. And you don't like people to mess with your rhythm because it throws you off. One of the best examples is, you remember when you first started learning how to drive, you had to be quiet, you had to focus. The radio couldn't be on, and then all of a sudden you can drive with the music blasting, but then you would get lost and you had to turn the radio down so you can focus and concentrate on what was going on. And so a lot of times we get into the rhythm of doing things based on habit. You don't remember when you change the gears. You don't remember when you turn the corner. You don't remember every pit stop in the road. And so life becomes the same way. And we refer to it in the coaching world as operating on autopilot. We get so used to doing things that it becomes second nature, and we are on autopilot. And it's a feeling of comfort. The problem with comfort is you don't grow in your comfort zone. You only grow when you have an opportunity to focus and change and adapt to something new.
Right. And that starts at an early age of being able to adapt, being able to share your toys as a kid. And somebody said, what's the biggest misconception young people have with finding their purpose today so they'll be able to develop later?
Your purpose doesn't really change, but a lot of times your purpose is in alignment with your gifts and your talents. And so one of the things that parents have to do is to expose their kids to as many things as possible, because you want more you expose your kids, the more you start to see, and the more they start to see what they're good at. But what happens
Mm,
is you might find that there are people who are good in sports, but they don't realize that they're good in a particular sport until later on. If you look at what the Russians do, from the time you're a young age, they say, okay, you're going to be a gymnast, you're going to be
mm,
a musician, you're going to be this, that, and the other, and you have no other way out. And so you become really, really good at that. And it shows in sports. For a while, we could never beat the Russians in gymnastics, especially at the Olympics, because they trained at such a young age. They started and they were consistent. They eat, they ate, breathed, and slept
mm,
gymnastics. And so if you look at the American culture, we have so many distractions. If you're just doing it 2, 3 hours a day and somebody's doing it 8 hours a day, after a
mm,
period of time, that extra hour or two that they're doing it, or 3 or 4, adds up in an 18-year span.
mm,
And that's why people become so much better. So one of the main misconceptions is that what you're good at now is the only thing that you're going to be good at later. And I
mm,
have an aunt that learned how to paint as a grown adult. So she
mm.
found a talent that she didn't even know she had late in life. She had kids, they moved out the house and everything. And here she was at 60 years old, now learning how to paint and being good at it.
Mm. And that's crazy. You know, I was talking to some men, and they always bring about when they was a child. They they had to just do this one thing. They went into this routine, and now they don't know nothing. You know, I'm 60 years old. I've been doing this so long. How do I transform my mind at this age to go back and like, yo, I can do stuff differently.
Yes, there is an old Chinese proverb that says the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And a
Mm,
lot of times we're so scared of failure that we refuse, we have a mental block in taking that first step because of
mm,
ridicule, because of failure. And you have to understand the fact that in Silicon Valley, they
mm,
might fit, those people who are going to be multimillionaires, they might fail 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. But the 10th
mm,
time when they do succeed, they become millionaires overnight. And
mm,
unlike a lot of people in other careers, they expect to fail, but they take those failures, they analyze it, they adapt, and they figure out, where did I go wrong? What do I need to tweak? Who do I need to align myself with so that I can do better next time? So they expect failure on a
yeah.
regular basis. And
Mm-hmm.
then once they have failed, they don't stay in that failure mindset. They use it to grow and to change and become better versions of themselves.
Wow. And that's true, you know, when you start to get there. So it's room for improvement regardless what
Definitely.
age you are, and you gotta transform and stuff. And we was talking along the lines of, you know, I'm in this box now, and I think I do pretty good. You know, can I be an introvert and still be able to be in a relationship as a man, or do I still have to have that controlling atmosphere to be in a relationship, whether it's personal, business, or spiritual?
One of the things you have to look at when you look at the term relationship, we're
Hmm.
thinking of two or more people interacting in a positive way. And so if I am taking more than I'm giving in a relationship, I become a parasite or a leech.
Mm.
And so we have to change our mindsets, and especially in the Western world, we look at relationships as transactional. What can I get from this?
Oh
And
yes.
I want to make sure I get more out of this than you, or at
Hmm.
worst scenario, we have to get the same out of it. And
Mm.
so we forget to understand the fact that in every relationship you're going to ever be in, sometimes you're going to be down and sometimes you're going to be up. And if you're only aligning yourself with people when they're up, what do you think is going to happen when you're down? Are people going to break away from you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's a saying, be careful how you treat people on the way up because you
Mm.
treat them on the way down.
Right.
And I think that a lot of the relationships that we have is
Mm-hmm.
because we are not trying to be of service to other people. Service is very important in a relationship. Now, I'm not saying slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Notice I said service.
Service. Right.
And service means that I'm willing to give of you. And at some
Mm-hmm.
point in time, I might give more than I'm getting.
Right.
If that person is also a good person and you choose your friendships wisely, at some point in time, you will be getting more than you're giving. And
Mm.
that is for intimate, business, community, family, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is a big question with men, and we hear this a lot. I'm an alpha male. What does that mean? I mean, I'm an alpha male. What does that mean? What am I telling people when I say that?
We use it in a negative way a lot of times. When you say you're alpha male, that a lot of times that means that you're domineering. You're
Mm.
gonna steamroll through people,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna take advantage of the situation. Sometimes you're narcissistic. You can be an alpha male and still be courteous. You can be an alpha male and still be kind. You can be an alpha male and still be helpful. And so a lot of times we use it to show dominance over other people and forgetting that being an alpha male is also a gift. You did not
Mm.
determine your own height. You did not determine your own personality. There's certain traits that came naturally to you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like beauty. If you're handsome and good looking, you did not do that yourself. So
Mm.
it's a gift that was given to you. How can you use that to be of service to other people?
That's right. That's right. And they had a comment that came up there that was so good. It said, if you're an alpha male, you don't have to say it. People will see it automatically. Those who say that are usually beta males.
Mhm. You know what? When you walk into a room and the room changes because of you,
Mm.
it's either because you're toxic or you're alpha male or female. However, there's another term that's been coming up, which is a sigma male. Sigma male is a male who doesn't need the limelight, who steps up when they need to step up, but
Mm.
they're okay taking a back seat because it doesn't phase them one way or the other. And so everybody's running to be an alpha male, but a sigma male is a male that's more self-actualized. They don't need all that attention. They don't need all that. And they tend to be more caring and nurturing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Whereas alpha
Mm.
males, like I said, they tend to be more on the narcissistic side if not cultivated and maintained properly.
Mm-hmm. And we hear that narcissistic so much with our men today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where did that come from? Is it just in the upbringing, or is it just our self development? I mean, where does that stem from? You believe?
I don't want to step on any toes.
Come on, step on it.
I don't want to step on. You gonna get me canceled before I get into the limelight, man. Okay, listen. We are in a community and in an environment where certain people want to have their way, and when they don't get their way, they
Mm.
label people as narcissistic. I believe that it is a form of manipulation.
Mm.
So imagine I am a male and I'm trying to get what I want from a female, and she's not succumbing to the pressure. She's not succumbing to the charm, the wits, and all that stuff. So one of the things I might say to her is, "Are you just narcissistic?" And she gets
Mm.
on the offensive, and she starts to tone down some of her standards, some of her values, and try to be more accommodating because she doesn't want to be labeled as narcissistic. Now flip that around, females to males. Um, well, before we flip that around, imagine a woman says, "Hey, I want a guy that's 6 foot tall, $100,000 or more a year, and he has to be good looking, he has to be established, this, that, and the other." And she is called, she knows what she wants.
Mm.
Because as soon as a guy says, "I want an athletic woman, and I want a woman to be a certain height or a certain weight or certain whatever," now all of a sudden he gets labeled as narcissistic.
Mm.
And so to me, whether you're saying it to a male or a female, I believe a lot of times it is used out of pocket as a form of manipulation or shaming because you're not getting what you want, whether you're a male or a female.
Mm.
Now, I like to hear what some of the people will say about that one.
Yeah. Somebody texted that, yeah, you got a good point and stuff. And they believe that, it's more, somebody says more men narcissistic than women. So, and hey, that's each
And
other's
that's why I didn't want to
appetite.
touch on that topic because I know that it's catered more towards men. However, which gender does the most shaming when they don't get what they want in a relationship?
Mm. That's the question. And then, and somebody just put double standard.
Exactly. And so I believe they're narcissists on both sides of the field. And like I say, as a relationship engineer and architect, what I do is to teach people that service is one of the backbones of a good relationship and adding value to your partner. Now, in adding to be able to add value to your partner is not giving you what I want to give you, is giving you what you
Hmm.
need to become a better version of yourself. And
Hmm.
so to do that, I need to study you. So if I'm
Hmm.
studying you to find out what you need from me and I'm communicating to you properly and effectively, then
Hmm.
I can be of more service. It is hard to be a narcissist if you're studying your partner or studying a friend or studying your business entity and trying to make them a better version of themselves, not controlling them, but helping whatever tools you have within your resources to help them become a better version of themselves or to help them complete whatever task they're trying to complete. Then I don't have time to be narcissistic, whether I'm a male or a female.
And that's true. Somebody asked a question: what roles do individual habits play in a relationship health? Then.
Your habits are formed by thoughts, and your thoughts become your beliefs. Your beliefs become your habits. So you have thoughts, you have actions, then you have who you become. And
Hmm.
so your habits are formed based on your actions, but your actions come from your thoughts. And then once those actions get reinforced, they become habits. So
Mm.
whether it is a good habit or a bad habit,
Hmm.
reinforcement is what causes it. And so
Hmm.
if you want to change a bad habit, you don't start by stopping what you're doing. You have to start by changing your thoughts.
Mm.
And you change your thoughts by self-improvement, by being
Hmm.
deliberate. So you hear people say, "Look, I've had a bad temper my whole life. So what are you gonna do about it?"
Mm.
Why is it that you believe that you have to act a certain way if you don't get what you want,
Right.
male or female? And
Right.
so you have to rethink, where did that come from,
Right.
and then find strategies to change that. because you have to believe that change is necessary before an action will change and become a permanent change. It's almost like those
Mm-hmm.
those New Year's resolutions where
Resolutions, yeah.
you start, but you don't finish it, and you don't finish it because there's no belief added into it. There's no value to the change in action. You have to change
Mm-hmm.
your thought before you change your action, before you change your habits.
That's right. Welcome, Nicole and Robert just joined us right now. And another question's coming in. What's the most overlooked factor in a successful relationship then? We know the bad parts. What's something's good coming out of me. I know it's got to be something.
Willingness. You have to be willing to change. So, for
Mm.
example, Johnny, sometimes my wife can't give 100%.
Mm-hmm.
She can only give 25 because she had a heck of a day.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be there for her and say, baby, I got your back. I got your 100 today.
Mm.
And next week it might be me. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is a lot of times we're not willing to bridge the gap when the partner falls short. We're not willing to be of service. We're not willing to learn what they need. We're not willing to give them what they need. We're not willing to help them grow. We're not willing to put stuff together. And
Mm.
so a lot of times, willingness to serve, willingness to grow, willingness to communicate, willingness to put in more energy than my partners put it in.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
As soon as a female or a male lose their job, or we out the door. We're not a high
Mm.
power couple anymore.
Right.
And so it is that willingness to do what is necessary. But we'll do it on the job.
Mm.
But we won't do it for the ones that we claim we love, especially after the butterflies are gone.
Wow. Wow.
And
Is that just a
butterflies
comfort
are only
level?
supposed to. Butterflies are only there for you to get to know that person. So when the
Mm-hmm.
butterflies are gone, you have something to build on.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people believe that butterflies is a relationship. If I no longer get those butterflies, if my heart no longer flutters, the love is gone. No.
Mm-hmm.
Love is an action. Love is an activity. Love is what you do every day. And so the butterflies have a purpose, but it's not supposed to last.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to make you blind to all those different flags that person has until you find reasons to stay and fight through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it. But we want butterflies all the time.
Yeah, and get that going. And from a man's standpoint, the question came up. I'm a man, and now I fell short. I can't get my 20%. My wife expects me to be the head of the household, but today is not going to be that day. How do I be able to communicate that to her without feeling like I'm weak and vulnerable?
Well, I'll tell you, look, listen, in any relationship, you have to be willing to be vulnerable because love is being able to see the worst in your partner and still loving them.
Mm.
So, for example, you're going to see your wife without makeup. You're going to see your husband right before he goes and shower after he been working outside all day.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna smell their bad breath in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the hair not done.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna see the imperfections real fast. You cannot hide that forever. But love is seeing them at their worst and still finding reasons to keep trucking through. And that's the problem with a lot of people. They expect perfection, but they can't give perfection. And that to me is a true narcissist. If I only expect you to be perfect, but when I fall short, my bad. So as a man, you're always a man. Whether I can come through or not, I'm still a man.
That's right.
But I'm a man with needs. I'm a man that needs help. I'm a man that needs a strong woman by my side to have my
Mm-hmm.
back when I fall short. But
Right,
to say
right.
I'm not a man because I don't make money, if somebody breaks into the house and I don't have money, do I am I still expected to fight them?
Mm.
I'm still expected to do manly things. So there
Mm-hmm.
are other things that men can do if they fall short in certain areas. My problem with a lot of men is, and a lot of women is, when you fall short and you don't fill in the gaps with other things,
Mm.
that's not fair. If I
Right.
can't work and my wife is working, am I cleaning the house? Am I taking the trash out? Am I taking care of the kids? Am I making sure that what she has to do in the home is less because she's making up the bulk of what needs to be done outside? I can't
Mm.
be at home sitting down playing video games and saying
Mm-hmm.
I'm the man. My bad, and she has to come home from work and do all the stuff. My wife
Right.
comes home from work, she cooks. I go out, I do stuff in the yard. When it snows, I go out there. Nobody comes out and help. There are things I do outside
Right.
of just working,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that you have to understand that there's always a gap that needs to be filled. If you fall short in one area, you got to pick it up in another.
That's right.
And you can't fall short for a long period of time and expect some conversations not to come up. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? If I'm a man and I don't have a job and my job is to provide and I'm not providing, I got to go out there. I got to try and find something to provide. And I have to do stuff around the house to make up that slack. I can't
Mm.
just say my bad. I never saw my father do that, so I'm not going to do that. Nah, you fill in the gap. My dad never ironed clothes, but I ironed clothes because I was better at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in a home where my mother ironed everything.
Right.
So it's
Right.
not about male and female task anymore. It's about filling in the gaps. It's about being of service, whether you're male or female, because women are so busy these days and men are so busy these days.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever gets home first cooks,
That's right.
and whoever cooks walks away, and the other person washes dishes. Like, figure it out.
Now, yeah.
Figure out what
It
you're
ain't
going to
hard.
do. But don't wear one person out because they're nicer. Don't wear one person out because they're male or female.
That's right.
Be of service. Be willing.
To do it. And somebody had a comment up there that I think we missed it there for about that. And men are lovers based on conditions. Women are loved by men unconditionally. And then that got some strong topic to it. But somebody asked, how do you advise couples on balancing independence and connections with that?
I believe in order to be of service to someone, you have to provide some level of value. And to provide some level of value, you need to self develop. Because let's say, okay, I've been married to my wife for 34 years.
Mm-hmm.
If I did not grow mentally in 34 years, I would run out of value to my wife because the immaturity that I had when I was 23 would not suffice at 57.
Mm.
And so there's a level of self development that needs to take place. I found out later in life that my wife loves the History Channel and she knows more about the Tudors of England, the royalty in England
Mm-hmm.
than I did. And I grew up in England. And so
Wow.
that was a big turn on for me because now every time she watches the show, she has something to share with me that I may not have learned in high school. And
Right.
so she's providing intellectual value for me, which I find interesting. And she knows
Mm-hmm.
that I find that interesting. And so she shares with me every time she finds a show about some type of history that I might like. She said, "Hey, I'm about to watch this. Do you want to watch this with me?" So she's providing value from her that
Mm-hmm.
that is based on personal growth by improving herself mentally. she's providing value. Another thing my wife does, she watches a lot of Food Network. So she's always trying out new recipes. So the way she cooked at 21 is not the way she cooks at 55.
Mm.
And so she's provided value. As my taste buds have changed and matured, as I've gone to more restaurants, she can provide that quality of food for me that I like. And so at the end of the day, we all have to improve so that we can add more stuff to the relationship, add value by self-improving. You cannot take away that self-improvement part. That's why you need to have friends outside of the relationship, that healthy friendships now, outside of that relationship, that will help you to grow. And so another thing that you can do is learn new things together. So a lot of times I might be good at bowling, so I want to take my wife bowling, and now she feels like, oh man, I'm so much worse than him. But why not do something that both y'all are new at together? That way you're learning together, you're developing together, versus one person is way better than the other and the other person feels a little frustrated. You know, and so self-develop, learn new things, write a bucket list, and then take turns off of each other's list to do. And that way you can develop and keep the relationship interesting. And once again,
in a relationship, Doc, can I outgrow the other spouse as a man? And this what happens as a man, you know, and we talked about this a couple of weeks. A woman's professional career might outgrow a man. What do I mean by that? I mean, she start making more money than the man and stuff. Does that hinder the relationship, or how do you balance that out now?
It depends on the mindset. It depends on the mindset, because there's way more to a relationship than money. There are a lot of rich people who are bankrupt. So having more money does not mean that you are necessarily better off. You might have more shiny stuff, but you still have bill problems. And so I may not make as much money as you, but I might know how to invest better. I might know how to do other things. But a lot of times people outgrow each other because you don't have a focus. My wife and I, when we retire, we want to have a house by the water. So everything that we do is going towards that. And so that's our vision. That's not our purpose, but that's our vision for the future. That's one of the things that we want to do. And that has nothing to do with outgrowing each other. Because if both of us want to live in a certain place and we talk about it and we communicate about it and we tell each other, okay, well, this is how we can get there, and we're both moving towards that direction. How do we grow apart? You only grow apart when you don't communicate, when people aren't willing to self-develop.
Right. And that makes sense, you know, I know some men, and we talk about mental health here for them. They feel that, hey, my wife making more money, I'm less of a man now because, you know, she control, even though she can have that open, say, yo, what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. You know, it's a joint account, you know, you're welcome to it. But mentally, she's outperforming me. And
how she's only outperforming in one facet of life.
Right.
Unfortunately, in the Western world, we put so much emphasis on money that we forget. Like, for example, a stay-home father, because the wife is a lawyer. Well, you knew she was going to outperform you at some point in time. So what are you going to bring to the table to make it beneficial to her? Are you going to babysit the kids? Are you going to have the clean house? Are you going to take different roles? You know, are you going to take the same thought pattern as a man's role is this and a woman's role is that? Or are you going to say, well, this is a unique situation, so how can I better help you to make sure I don't stress you out? Because I know as a lawyer, you're more stressed, so you're going to come home stressed every day. What can I do to lighten your load? What can I do to add value to you. And that's where major communication comes in. Because a lot of times the Bible talks about being unequally yoked. And a lot of times we
Mm.
think it's religion, but it could be mindset unequally yoked. It could be financially unequally yoked. It could be physically unequally yoked. But we only look at the financial part and think, oh, this is such a big thing. Eating habits is something that could be, if one partner wants to eat out every day and the other partner wants a home cooked meal,
Mm-hmm.
that could be something that can kill a relationship almost as fast as finances.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to have a mindset of communication and willingness to do what is necessary, have those difficult conversations. Because a woman might outperform a man and get more money, but is that all that is wanted out of a relationship? Is money the biggest factor? Now, let me explain to you why I said that. If I said to you, Johnny, I'll give you $1 million today, you'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah. But if I said, I'll give you $1 million today, but you die tomorrow,
Mm.
now all of a sudden, health is more important than money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times we think that money is the end all be all in a relationship. But when you lose your health, you realize money is not as important as health.
Right.
When you lose all your friends, you realize, man, you understand what I'm saying?
Yep. And it
Right.
makes sense.
So it's easy to put emphasis on the wrong things
Thing.
and have the totally wrong mindset and think that money is the end all be all. And in a Western society, we do that a lot.
Mm.
But what about health? What about intelligence? What about willingness?
Mm-hmm.
Am I willing to help my partner? Am I willing to conform? Am I willing to change? That to me is more important than how much money is being made by. Now, if you pick somebody who has a problem with money, then that's a poor choice on your part.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times we choose people for the wrong reasons. And then we have to pay the price and pay the piper.
That's right. And that's it. And Rob Dickinson, he had a good comment there. He said, my friend cooks Jamaican style food, so I make up and find all different kinds of jobs to keep getting a good Jamaican food. I learned how to fold clothes, keep both cars clean for the curry goat, porridge, as well as the culture. And that's Rob, that's a good point there, that you show that you understand what they're good at, what they're great at, what they're doing for it, and you kind of add value by doing other things, which is of equal value, because you got to have your car clean, you got to clean the house and do those things. Somebody asked the thing, how do we help couples navigate through these cultural and value differences? What do we say to our partners? What is that? And that's right, Chuck, no I in team. What do we say in that, Doctor? How to where we like, yo, we got each other. This is both ours. How do we build that in those differences?
I want to address something first.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things I want to address is after people get married and get kids, a lot of times women focus on the kids and not on the husbands. And then when the kids grow up and leave, you realize that you and your husband don't have a relationship anymore. And so you have to understand that a wife has a lot of different titles. A wife was a girlfriend first. Then she became a wife. Then she became a mother, but she was also an employee or an employer. And so we treat them like a wife, forgetting that they have other hats. Same thing with the husband. He was a boyfriend first, became a husband, then a father, but he also is a worker or an owner. And so there are 4 to 5 different hats that these people wear. And a lot of times we get stuck on the mommy and the daddy hat, and we forget to keep dating, because what we did together is what we need to do to keep them. So a lot of times people say, you change, you don't take me out anymore, you don't do this anymore, you don't do that anymore. And that's because you're looking at the mommy hat or the daddy hat, and you forget that this person also wants to be wined and dined, and they want some romance. And so
Mm-hmm.
remember, in a relationship, they were a boyfriend or girlfriend first,
Mm.
they were a wife next, then they were a parent after that, and they're also an employee. And so when your wife or husband is in the serious mode, remember, okay, they might be in work mode, but you and them must also remember, I got to get back to wife role, husband role, and boyfriend and girlfriend role. And don't take those things for granted. That's how you keep a relationship going, by making sure that all those
Mm-hmm.
hats are taken care of. Now, going backwards, before you get married, you have to pick people based on chemistry. Now, the problem with chemistry is this: when people get chemistry, they think that chemistry is the end all be all. I can have chemistry with 10 women, but are we compatible?
Mm.
Are our values the same?
Mm.
Are they willing to be of service to me and to a family? Can we focus on a vision together? So a lot of times we just looking at the chemistry, and there's other things that we need to do in order to get that, in order to pick the right person.
Mm.
And a lot of times people look at other people, man, I have chemistry with her, but I don't think I have chemistry with my wife anymore or my husband anymore. And we forget that chemistry is not the end all be all of a relationship. You also need compatibility. Are you, and that goes back to willingness again. Values,
Mm-hmm.
do we have similar values?
Mm.
And then here's a weird thing: habits. We never talk about habits before marriage. If you stay
Mm.
up all night and then sleep all day, and I go to bed early and I get up, as a wife or a husband, I want you to get up and spend time with me, but you just went to bed. And so
Mm.
habits are a major thing that can break relationships too.
Mm-hmm.
So chemistry, compatibility, you got values, you got
Mm-hmm.
habits, and then you have other things. So chemistry is not the only thing that can help you keep that relationship together. And so don't look at it as such a big thing. To me, and I found this out later in life, commitment is more
Mm.
important than chemistry.
Really?
Commitment to myself, commitment to my wife, commitment to the relationship. So it's three different things that I have to be committed to in order to keep that relationship stable. And people don't talk about that a lot when it comes to relationships, because there are
Mm-hmm.
times I don't like my wife, but I still love her.
Mm.
Because I don't like her today does not mean I'm not going to like her tomorrow. It just
Mm.
means my selfishness or ego might have taken control that particular day, or she might have been off that day, or I could have been off that day.
Mm-hmm.
And it just means I need to reflect and see what needs to change in the relationship. But the relationship itself doesn't have to change.
Mm-hmm. So
Just
how do
me.
you said something interesting now. You say you might be off that day. She might be off that day. How do you come back on then if you're off?
Communication. You see, I need to be vulnerable enough that when she comes to me and says, hey babe, I didn't like the way you say that, I don't snap at her, attack her, or justify the bad action. I acknowledge the fact that something was done to hurt her, and then together we can see, is it me or is it her? But I can't automatically say to her, oh, you being too sensitive, which is what
Mm.
we do a lot. Or you
Absolutely.
being, you being overreactive, you being sensitive. You know what? You can't take a joke. No, my feelings were hurt. Okay, she might be hypersensitive, but you chose her, so now you got to deal with that. So joke
Mm-hmm.
less, be more mindful of her nature, and don't degrade her because she's that way. because there's going to be things that she don't like about you, and you have to take that also with a grain. You have to take that on the chin and say, "Oh man, my wife is not as playful as me, so I can't joke with her all the time like I might joke with other people." But she likes to talk a lot, and sometimes I don't want to talk as much. And she's like, I know you need your space, but we both have to compromise because we have a goal together that we're working towards. And if couples will work towards some type of goal,
right,
and then you say to yourself, is the decision I'm about to make going to help or hinder both of us reaching our goal? See, it's that simple. Is what I'm about to say to her, because of my ego, going to hinder us from reaching our goal in 5 years?
That's right.
A lot of times we open our mouth and say stuff, but you can't take that stuff back.
No, it's there. It's stuck.
Right. So be more purposeful about what you say. Think before you say, and you ask yourself, is this going to hurt my relationship and our ability to reach our goal within X amount of time?
And the question is came up. It's so obvious that we on this. What's a red flag couples often ignore too long in this relationship, and some kind can be traumatizing once it becomes out in the open?
Boundaries. Because we're in a relationship, that don't mean we don't have boundaries. Relationships work better with boundaries. So, for example, my wife can grab my phone and she can go through it. There's going to be no problems whatsoever. It's not always been that way, but it's that way now. It took me a while, and we've seen a lot of jokes about males and females. Don't touch my phone. Don't do this. Don't do that. I even saw a movie one time. The wife was getting ready to open the phone. The friend took the phone and threw it off the mountain because he knew his friend had pictures, videos, and everything. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take one for the team." So boundaries. If you know that something is going to hurt the relationship, put a boundary around it. I have a presentation that I do called "Love is War," but love isn't war with us. Love is war with everyone else. In other words, there are family members that can break up your relationship. There are kids that will break up their relationship. A lot of times, like in blended households, a lot of times people might say, "Don't talk to my kid, don't hit my kid, don't do this, don't do that." And they put so many restrictions on the other parent that the kid runs that house. So now that house is toxic because that kid has no set of structure. How can I babysit a kid that I can't talk to, that has no respect for me? And so now all of a sudden, you're not my daddy, you're not my mommy, you can't talk to me, I'm not going to listen to you.
Right.
And so it creates a lot of problems. So boundaries. Before we come into this relationship, what are the rules and regulations for dealing with X, Y, and Z? And can I live with that? What are the boundaries for female friends and male friends? And can I live with that?
But we share everything, Dr. Howard. We share, ain't no boundary. We share everything,
Well, and there's a saying: "It's all fun and games till the rabbit has the gun." So when one person is doing it, you being oversensitive, but when the other spouse is doing it, now all of a sudden, that ain't right. It's different. This, that, and the other. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so if you have good boundaries for each other and for the relationship and for the people outside of the relationship, then you know how to occupy yourself. So, for example, there's a reason why we have a speed limit, because not everybody can handle going over that speed. Now, some people can go over that speed and be fine, but just in case, we don't know yet, here's the boundary. So you can do whatever you want within that boundary, and you be fine. So don't
Mm-hmm.
drink, don't drink and drive, don't go over the speed limit, and don't do road rage, and you can get from here to there and back without any incidents. The same thing is true of a relationship. We have guardrails, we have certain things that we expect from each other. Now, all I'm saying is it needs to be fair.
Mm.
Because you make more money does not mean that you get to violate the boundaries.
Mm.
Because my family is more influential does not mean that I get to violate the boundaries.
Mm.
Because I have a better personality than you, and that's subjective, does
Yeah.
not mean that I get to do things that you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's have a conversation and
Mm-hmm.
see what are the do's and the don'ts in the relationship. Let's write them down, let's talk about them, and then let's move forward. That's how
Mm.
you cultivate and maintain a healthy relationship. And then, last but not least, there's a research that says that in order to stay healthy, you need to put in 90 active, intimate minutes with your partner. So I'm not saying watching a movie. So when you're talking and communicating, none of this. Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening. I heard you. Now put the phone down. Within a 7-day period, you need to maintain 90 active listening and talking and communicating minutes. And that is the baseline of cultivating a good relationship. That's the
Mm.
minimum 90 active minutes of communication, non disturbed, no, whatever. Call it pillow talk, you call it drop everything and talk or whatever. But you need to have 90 minutes where you just communicating with each other. How was your day? Is there anything I need to work on? Did I did I drop the ball this week? What are your plans for next week? How can I help you out next week? Just the simple things to touch to make sure that we're not growing apart.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as you grow in love, you can fall out of love.
Of love,
Yeah, you can
and
grow
that's
out of
good.
love. Yeah, definitely.
The big question is, how can couples practice gratitude in their daily life?
Do what I do. Hey, listen, and I found this out. Um, this is the weirdest thing. All right, actually, I'll be intimate with you. I'll share something with you. All right, here we go. My wife used to snore. I snore also, but my wife used to snore, and it used to wake me up sometimes, and I could not go to sleep, and I would get madder and madder and madder. And I used to hate, like, when she started snoring, I was like, man, I can't stand this. And I would push her, I would nudge her, and I would get mad and stuff. And it brought out of me a sense of resentment for years.
Mm.
And then one day I was doing something and I came across something and it said, imagine the worst situation. Imagine if that situation was gone. How would you feel? So that night I went to bed and I was laying there and she started snoring. And I said, suppose she was dead and I no longer had a wife. How would I feel?
Mm.
Would I rather her be dead or would I rather her be snoring? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And so I started saying, I love my wife, I love my wife, I love my wife. And I fell right to sleep. And I said that every night I woke up. I said that every night before I woke up. And eventually it got to the point where I don't care if she snores or not.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I do every night
That
is
is deep.
thank God. I thank God for 3 things that happened that day. And I thank God for 2 things that my wife did. And that forces me to look for the positive in life. And so by thinking about 2 things that my wife did that was positive that day, I don't fixate on the negative. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I discovered gratitude in my life, by just fixing my focus.
Mm-hmm.
and finding things to be happy about.
And that's deep because we take for granted stuff that happens
Hmm.
and it can be taken away from us
Yeah.
in a moment. And we never have those really conversations like you said to really think about it because I want to say sometimes it's selfishness,
Hmm.
of thinking it's like, Dad, can I be thankful that's happening to me?
Hmm.
Or can, I just say, hey, you know what? This is gonna bother me. You know, my wife's always, looking at the other end of the spectrum of, that don't affect me. What affects me is what happens here. And I had to come to that mindset. I can only control what's affecting me and how is it affecting me? What is
You
it
can't.
doing?
A lot of times, you can't even control what affects you. All you can control is how you react to it.
That's true. That is true. And and my reaction can make it worse
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah.
than what it is. And I tell people we just always got to be so grateful every moment
Hmm.
because minutes are precious,
Yeah.
to see and people go and leave this life in transition. And we say, oh man, I wish that I had this opportunity. When I tell people we ain't got to wish no more. We just got to be thankful,
Hmm.
um, appreciate them for it and stuff, and get to go in there. But Dr. Howe, it's just from a man's perspective, um, we have to think outside that box and get out that box of masculinity
Hmm.
and just say, hey, I need to be more humble and grateful for what I have. And guess what? Whatever control I need, God's going to provide it for me.
That's
I
right.
don't provide my control,
Hmm.
for it. And, we are so bent on having control. God provides us the control we need because too much control will mess it up.
But the sad part is, we have very little control in life. The only
Mm,
thing we control in life are our thoughts and our actions. That's it.
mm.
You might think you don't even control a baby. What makes you think you can control an adult? If you tell a baby stop crying, the baby don't stop crying. So what makes you think you can control anything else in life? And you drive the car every day and you think, yeah, I got control of this car. Let the car lose the brakes. You'll see how much control you actually have.
Right, right,
We
right.
have zero control of anything outside of us.
Mm,
We have all the control of our thoughts and our actions. That's it. And the sooner we can understand that is the better. And that's where gratitude, like you said, comes in because whether things are good or bad, we can be grateful for the experience because there's always something to learn. The
mm,
saddest thing you can do is to go through trauma and not learn from it. Because if you
mhm.
can learn from it, you can probably avoid it in the future.
Right.
But if you fixate on woe is me, you spend the rest of your life looking in the rearview mirror, not enjoying the present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're getting anxious about the future, worrying about the past, and not enjoying the present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we gotta be very careful.
Mm-hmm. Folks, I mean, I tell you, great conversation tonight. We learned a lot, of how we're going to be able to grow, especially as men, in our mental health and our abilities. Dr. Howell pointed out some key things tonight that, as for men, we have to be able to maneuver outside of our comfort zone, but humbly and peacefully. Guess what? To be a man is not to have this alpha attitude, as I call it,
Hmm.
and this humanistic, untouchable lifestyle, but to really sit down and think through stuff, captivate the moment of what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, and how do we build these relationships? Because we struggle right now as men on having a conversation one on one.
Yeah,
We,
definitely.
we struggle because somebody got to be in control of the conversation, or somebody got to control that whole environment, but we need to think about how to be humble, how to talk, how to work through these things, and how to grow. So folks, we're going to keep focusing on that. I thank Dr. Howell for coming on tonight, providing another resource. As you know, seen a lot of resources from pastors and laymen and doctors that's in this field that we able to grow as men. And guess what? Be the best version of ourselves that we can have. Dr. Howell, thank you so much for coming on. Folks, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. We will see you next week as we continue to end our conversation on men's mental health and growth as we go through life. Y'all have a wonderful night, and thanks for tuning in.
Good night, everyone.